I don't know. I don't know. There's a couple of plays that I loved doing. I loved doing The Rainmaker on Broadway. I enjoyed that very much.
In the world of television and movies, some faces are simply unforgettable. They're etched into our collective memory, tied to moments of laughter, suspense, and pure nostalgia. One of those faces belongs to Darren McGavin. For millions, he's the comically cranky old man Parker in the holiday classic, A Christmas Story. A dad whose epic battles with a clanking furnace and a fragile leg lamp are the stuff of legend. For another generation, he's the determined, rumpled-suited reporter. Carl Kolchak, a guy who fearlessly stared into the darkness to hunt the monsters that others refused to see. For nearly 5 decades, he was a constant. Reliable presence on our screens, a tough guy with a glint in his eye and a true master of his craft. But the story of the man behind these iconic roles is filled with more twists and struggles than any script he ever read. His journey from a troubled, fractured childhood, from painting movie sets to becoming a household name, is a testament to a relentless and often stubborn will to survive. And what really happened at the end of his incredible career, the story of his final battles, and the complex legacy he left behind, is a story that has remained largely untold. Until now, every story has a beginning, but Darren McGavin was one he rarely talked about, a past clouded in rumor and painful memories. He was born William Lyle Richardson on May 7, 1922, in Spokane, Washington. But a stable name and birthplace were about the only constants in his early life. His childhood wasn't about picket fences and family warmth. It was a chaotic whirlwind of abandonment and upheaval. In interviews, he was always sketchy with the details, not to be mysterious, but likely because the memories themselves were just a painful patchwork. His parents, a traveling salesman, and his wife, divorced when he was 11. Custody went to his father, but a life on the road was no place for a boy. Young William was boarded out with a family on a farm, a lonely and isolating existence that sparked a fierce independent streak. So, he ran away. For a while, he found a home with a Native American family living along the Nisqually River, a brief moment of peace before the authorities caught up with him. He was then shuffled between a Catholic boarding school and various foster homes. By his early teens, he was a full-blown runaway, a tough kid learning to survive on the fringes. He later admitted to living in warehouses and on the docks of Tacoma and San Francisco, dodging police and welfare workers, learning the hard lessons of the street. He told TV Guide in 1973 that his parents simply vanished. Another time, he described himself as having been a rotten little kid. Mostly I was scared and hiding it by being very tough. This hardship forged the man he would become, resilient, self-reliant, and fiercely convinced of the need to survive against all odds. It was a creed that would define not just his life, but the characters he would later bring to the screen. Eventually, around 16, he reconnected with his mother in Southern California. He moved in, finished high school, and even enrolled at the College of the Pacific, hoping to become an architect. He wanted to build the stable homes and structures he never had. But destiny, it seems, had other plans. McGavin's entry into Hollywood wasn't through a glamorous audition. It was through the back door, with a paintbrush in his hand. He dropped out of college after a year and got a job at Columbia Pictures as a set painter. He was just another guy on the crew, part of the unseen machine that creates movie magic. But he was there, on the lot, breathing it all in, watching and learning. The story of how he went from crew to cast is pure Hollywood lore. While working on the 1945 film, A Song to Remember, McGavin heard about a small, uncredited role. In a move of pure nerve, he slipped away from his painting duties, met an agent at the front gate, walked back in as a prospective actor, and auditioned. He got the part. The paint foreman, recognizing the man who'd just abandoned his post, reportedly fired him on the spot. But it didn't matter. William Lyle Richardson, the runaway set painter, had his foot in the door. He was now Darren McGavin. The actor, realizing he needed to truly learn the craft, McGavin left for New York City to study at the legendary neighborhood playhouse under Sanford Meisner and at the Actors Studio. This is where he built his foundation, even hitting the road with a touring production of Death of a Salesman. The New York stage soon came calling, and in 1954, he landed roles in 2 major Broadway productions. He originated the role of the charismatic lead, Bill Starbuck, in The Rainmaker, acting opposite the brilliant Geraldine Page. These weren't bit parts. They were demanding, high-profile roles that announced his arrival as a serious, formidable talent. He was no longer just a tough kid who got lucky. He was a bona fide Broadway actor. The stage had given him legitimacy, but a new medium was about to make him a star. As television exploded in the 1950s, Darren McGavin was perfectly positioned to become one of its first leading men. With his rugged looks, tough guy demeanor, and Broadway acting chops, he was a natural fit for the small screen. Soon, he landed the role that would make him a household name. Mickey Spillins, Mike Hammer. From 1958 to 1959, McGavin was the hard-boiled private eye. The show was a hit, but McGavin was relentlessly and publicly critical of it. He found the character one-dimensional, and the show's reliance on violence lazy. Hammer was a dummy, he bluntly stated years later. I made 72 of those shows, and thought it was a comedy. In fact, I played at camp. This was the first major display of a trait that would define his career, a fierce, defiant honesty about the industry and his own work. He wasn't an actor who would just cash a check and keep quiet. He demanded quality, and he wasn't afraid to say so. His work ethic, however, was insane. As Mike Hammer was ending, he began starring in a second series. At the same time, from 1959 to 1961, he played Captain Gray Holden in the NBC Western Riverboat, co-starring a young Burt Reynolds. For a time, McGavin was the star of 2 network shows at once, a workload that was almost unheard of, sometimes hitting 90 hours a week. The set of Riverboat was also a source of conflict. McGavin and Reynolds clashed, with reports suggesting the veteran McGavin felt the younger actor wasn't showing proper respect. The tension was so bad the two reportedly never spoke off camera. McGavin's pursuit of quality also led him to butt heads with the network. When Riverboat was struggling, he drafted a detailed proposal to improve the show's authenticity. He presented his plan to NBC. NBC used none of my ideas, went fumbling ahead, and Riverboat sank. He later said with his signature bluntness, "Through it all the brutal hours, the on-set feuds, the battles with executives, McGavin was cementing a dual reputation. To the public, he was one of TV's most reliable stars. But within the industry, he was becoming known as difficult, demanding, and uncompromising. It was a reputation he didn't just accept, but seemed to actively encourage." After years as a TV workhorse, Darren McGavin was about to step into the role that would grant him cult immortality, and he almost didn't take it. In 1972, his agent called him about an ABC movie of the week, saying, "Listen, there's this crazy story about a reporter and some kind of monster in Las Vegas. You don't want to do this." Intrigued, McGavin read the script anyway and immediately knew it was terrific. That movie was The Night Stalker. McGavin played Carl Kolchak, a cynical, rumpled reporter who stumbles upon the horrifying realization that a modern-day vampire is loose in Las Vegas. Aired on January 11, 1972. The Night Stalker was a phenomenon, becoming the highest-rated TV movie in history at the time. McGavin's performance was the key. He made Kolchak a world-weary, relatable pest who annoyed the authorities and refused to accept easy explanations. With his cheap seersucker suit, battered straw hat, and bulky tape recorder, he was a modern knight armed, not with a sword, but with stubborn curiosity. McGavin's wife, Kathy Brown, said the actor was very, very close to Kolchak, noting that fans loved him because he never gave up. "He's fighting, always fighting," she said. "I think Darren has a lot of that in his own personality." A hit sequel, The Night Strangler, led to the inevitable weekly series. But when Kolchak, The Night Stalker, premiered in 1974, the behind-the-scenes struggles began. Ironically, for a man who became a horror icon, McGavin personally disliked the genre. "It's the kind of show I would never watch," he confessed. He felt the weekly Monster of the Week format lacked the cleverness of the original movie and clashed with producers over the quality of the scripts. He had a verbal agreement to be a producer with creative control, but felt Universal Studios reneged on the deal. After just 20 episodes, McGavin himself pulled the plug. "I called up the network and said, 'Let's cancel this goddamn thing,'" he recalled. "You're losing money, we're losing money, and I'm tired." 3 hours later, the show was canceled. Though its run was brief, Kolchak's influence was monumental. Chris Carter, the creator of The X-Files, has repeatedly cited Kolchak as a direct inspiration for Fox Mulder, the determined investigator chasing unbelievable truths. In a fitting tribute, McGavin later guest-starred on The X-Files as Arthur Dales, the man who essentially founded The X-Files, a passing of the torch from one generation of paranormal investigation to the next. For all his groundbreaking work, Darren McGavin's most universally beloved role came in a modest 1983 holiday film, A Christmas Story. He played Mr. Parker, known to all as the Old Man, a part that required a perfect blend of gruff crankiness and unspoken fatherly love. The Old Man is a figure of hilarious frustration, constantly warring with the neighbor's dogs, muttering creative curses at the furnace, and experiencing a moment of pure pride over winning a major award, a gaudy, fishnet-clad leg lamp that is, to him, high art. McGavin's performance is a masterclass in understated comedy. He plays the character with a straight-faced seriousness that makes him all the funnier. The genius is in the quiet moments, the sly smile he gives his son Ralphie after getting him the Red Ryder BB gun he desperately wanted. He gave the character a soul. The film wasn't a blockbuster, but it found its true life on television, where holiday marathons turned it into a cultural phenomenon. Today, it's an essential part of the Christmas season for millions. This role introduced him to generations of viewers who didn't know him as Mike Hammer or Carl Kolchak. He was, and forever will be, Ralphie's dad. He seemed to appreciate the connection, understanding the special place the film held in people's hearts. The old man was another of McGavin's great survivors, just one navigating the small, frustrating, and ultimately beautiful trials of everyday family life. While Kolchak and A Christmas Story are his most famous roles, they're just two highlights in a career staggering in its breadth. McGavin was the consummate journeyman actor, moving seamlessly between genres and always delivering a memorable performance. In the 1950s, he stood opposite icons like Katharine Hepburn in Summertime and played Frank Sinatra's drug supplier. In the gritty film, The Man with the Golden Arm, his career was a tapestry of diverse roles. He was a shady bookie named Gus Sands in The Natural, his role uncredited due to a contract dispute. He appeared in disaster films like Airport 77 and shared the screen with Arnold Schwarzenegger in the action movie Raw Deal. Even late in his career, he kept surprising audiences. In 1995, he co-starred with Adam Sandler in the comedy Billy Madison *. As the exasperated but loving father to Sandler's manchild, McGavin provided the film with a crucial grounding force, playing the straight man to Sandler's absurdity with perfect comedic gravity. His television work also continued to earn acclaim. Between 1989 and 1992, he had a recurring role on the hit sitcom Murphy Brown as the opinionated, old-school newsman, father of Candice Bergen's character. The role was a perfect fit, and his work was recognized by his peers. In 1990, he was nominated for the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Comedy Series. It was a fitting, if overdue, acknowledgement from an industry he had helped to pioneer. On screen, Darren McGavin was a detective, a riverboat captain, and a suburban dad. Off-screen, the man himself was just as complex, defined by fierce intelligence, a volatile temper, and a carefully built reputation. He famously once told a reporter, "I've worked very hard to get a terrible reputation." It wasn't a confession, it was a strategy. McGavin believed fear was a powerful motivator on a TV set. He felt if people came in scared, they would be more inclined to listen to his suggestions and strive for higher quality. It was an abrasive approach, born from his deep frustration with what he saw as mediocrity. His personal life was equally dynamic. He was married 3 times, most enduringly to actress Kathy Brown in 1969. They remained together for over 30 years, a lasting partnership that ended only with her death in 2003. He was a staunch liberal and an active Democrat, a political leaning that stood in contrast to some of the conservative characters he played, like Mike Hammer. Above all, he was a survivor, a trait he shared with Carl Kolchak. "This is why I'm a confirmed survivalist and believe in keeping the dream alive," he once said, referencing his tough upbringing. "It's also why I like the character of Carl Kolchak. I saw in him a man fighting for survival, a man beaten down and scrambling to get back up. That kind of guy is a good hero, I think." This was the core of Darren McGavin, a man forged in adversity who spent his life fighting for survival, for quality, and for the integrity of his characters. The late 1990s marked a slow curtain call on Darren McGavin's 5-decade career. He continued to take memorable guest roles, like his powerful appearances on The X-Files and its sister series, Millennium. However, in 1999, he suffered a debilitating stroke, which largely ended his acting career. The final years of his life were quiet, spent out of the spotlight. His wife of 34 years, Kathy Brown, passed away in 2003, a profound loss for the aging actor. On February 25, 2006, Darren McGavin died of cardiovascular disease at a Los Angeles hospital at the age of 83. His son reported that he passed away peacefully, surrounded by family. He was laid to rest at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, a final resting place among the legends of the industry he had so often challenged and reshaped. His wife, Kathy, is interred at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in the Hollywood Hills. The news of his death marked the end of an era. He was remembered not for one role, but for all of them. He was Mike Hammer, Carl Kolchak, and the Old Man. He was a man who could be difficult, but whose difficulty always stemmed from a passionate pursuit of excellence. He was a television pioneer, a journeyman actor, and a cultural icon whose work continues to be celebrated by new audiences. Darren McGavin's story is a powerful reminder that the faces we see on screen often hide lives of incredible complexity and struggle. From a runaway kid to a television legend, his journey was truly one of a kind. What's your favorite Darren McGavin role? Is it the monster-hunting Kolchak or the leg-lamp-loving Old Man? Let us know in the comments below. In the end, what happened to Darren McGavin is that he left behind a legacy as sturdy and complex as the man himself. He was never just one thing. He was a survivor, a rebel, a craftsman, and an icon. He was the gruff exterior with a hidden heart of gold, the cynic who chased unbelievable truths, the father figure to a generation. His life was a testament to the power of resilience, a story of a man who faced down the monsters of his own past and the fictional monsters on our screens with the same stubborn, indomitable spirit. He may be gone, but thanks to the magic of film and television, Darren McGavin will forever be there muttering about a furnace, chasing a vampire, and reminding us all what it means to be a true original.